Should say recording on your
Yeah,
side there.
you can see it, no problem.
Okay, so Mr. Hyman.
No, you can call me Mark. Then if I can call you then you can call me Mark.
Yeah, okay, cool. So listen, so before we get started with all the heavy stuff, right? So what I want to do is just do a little bit of an icebreaker here. And I mean, you tell me, I know you've got these heavy sort of legal battles and stuff like that, but if you had to be a spirit animal, okay, and considering all the stuff you're going through now, what type of animal would you be and why?
A pit bull terrier, for the reason that I'm the type of person who doesn't let go. I never let go. I fight battles to the end. I always have. I'm an Aquarian. I don't know if that makes a difference, but
Me too. That's interesting.
Okay, all right. So I've always lived a life according to the tenets of the Jewish tradition. I'm Jewish, and in the oral law of the Jewish law, it clearly says that he who saves the life of one is considered to have saved the life of the entire world. So I've spent my life, 63 years, in healthcare, and I have looked at protecting the interests of the consumer, and whether it's been running the link chain of pharmacies from 1979 to 1995, consulting to the multinational pharmaceutical industry about pricing, etc. I've always been a pit bull, and I will remain a pit bull. I will fight to the bitter end. I don't let go.
Okay, that's good to hear. So, I mean, you didn't appear sort of out of nowhere, right? So, like, what? Give me, or give the listeners like a timeline of your trajectory, because I mean, how old are you now? 70.
I turned 76 on the 27th of January.
You're still looking young. So tell me a little bit, just like a trajectory of how did Medichek start, and when did it start, and how did you get there?
Okay, an interesting scenario. In 2019, I paid my annual visit to my endocrinologist because I'm diabetic. She did all the normal tests on me, but she was and remains, in my opinion, one of the best endocrinologists in the world. It was my wife's birthday. I took her out for dinner. And whilst we were at dinner, I got a phone call from my endocrinologist to say, when do you shower? And I said, in the morning. She says, well, that's very good because you have a 9 o'clock meeting with your cardiologist. And I said, well, why? She said, I wasn't happy with your ECG. So I said, okay, I'll go and do it. I went to see my cardiologist, and he said, look, you're a diabetic. You've got hyperlipidemia. You've got cholesterol. You're a hypertensive. You've got high blood pressure. Please do me a favor. Let's get this bitch off my back. Let's do an angiogram. So I said to him, it's Friday morning. Will I have to stay over? And he said, yes. So I said, look, I'm Jewish. I keep the Jewish Sabbath. Can we do it next week? He said, we can do it next week. We can do it next month. Let's just get her off our back. I said, okay, let's do it on Monday morning. And Monday morning came, and I went into the cath lab. They did the angiogram. You're partially sedated. And I heard whispering in the background. They went to speak to my wife, and the next thing I knew, I was in an ambulance from the Linksfield Park Clinic on my way to the Mill Park Clinic, and I was told I was having a quadruple heart bypass.
What?
Yep, quadruple heart bypass. So it wasn't an emergency because I didn't have a heart attack. But they said I need it because if I don't have it, I'm going to die.
Jeez.
So I arrived. I was in
what year was that?
2019.
Okay.
So arrived at the Linksfield at the Mill Park Clinic, and they put me into the cardiothoracic unit. my cardiothoracic surgeon, Dr. Martin Sussman, came to see me, and he told me what he was going to be doing. And I had dinner with my wife in cardiothoracic unit, the last meal. And I don't know if you've ever been into the cardiothoracic unit at the Mill Park Hospital, but it has a very short wall, brick wall, between your head and the patient next door, and the rest is all glass, so that you can be watched at all times. At 3 a.m. on Tuesday morning, prior to the procedure, the lights came flashing on in the ICU. Bells were ringing. Nurses were running around like crazy. And being the type of guy that I am, I got out of bed to see what was going on, because it was happening in the room right next door to me. And there I saw my anesthetist, who's a personal friend of mine, and I saw my cardiothoracic surgeon ripping open the chest of the patient in the bed next door.
Jeez.
So I said to my cardiothoracic, my nurse who was with me, I said, please tell Martin to come and see me the minute he's finished next door. And at 6 a.m. he walked into my cubicle, and he said to me, I said to him, Martin, I saw what happened at 3 a.m. this morning. There's no ways I'm having this procedure. Count me out. I'm leaving. And you can't get out of the cardiothoracic ICU. You need codes to do PIN codes on doors. And I couldn't get out.
Make an escape and try and run out or something.
Yeah, so
how did you get to Medichek? This I'm still trying to understand.
Okay, so this is I'm giving you the story. So he said, no, this is not happening. You're having the procedure. You can't get out. He phoned my wife. She came flying through to the hospital to tell me, you've got to have it. He got my daughter. She came flying through. He got my cardiologist to come and see me. Eventually, they brought a psychiatrist to come and see me. And then one of the other cardiothoracic surgeons eventually came to see me at about 5 p.m. that afternoon. She said to me, they were totally stupid in putting you into the cardiothoracic unit. You should have been in a private room where you didn't have the noise of the ICU, you didn't have the lack of sleep. And by the way, the air conditioning in the hospital wasn't working at that stage.
Wow.
And she said, I'm going to put you in a private room and we'll do the procedure on Wednesday. So I went into the theater, they did the procedure, had the quadruple heart bypass, came out of hospital, and guess what? Because I'd moved on a Monday for a procedure on a Tuesday, which only took place on a Wednesday, my medical aide said, whoa, we ain't paying.
Really?
Because A, the doctor that you used is not a designated service provider of our medical scheme, and it's not Discovery. And we will pay up to scheme rate for the procedure. So I took the scheme on, and I won my case. And I said, if it's happened to me as, I'm not going to say an intelligent person, but as a relatively intelligent person, if it's happening to me, this is happening to a number of other people.
Absolutely.
And that's how Medichek was born.
Okay. Man, okay, so you've been fighting this thing. I think it's got a personal relevance for you, so it makes a lot more sense. Thank you.
So that's where I come from. That's where Medichek come from, despite the fact that I have been in the healthcare industry for 63 years.
Oh, really?
Yes. I started
what's your background? I mean, are you like a lawyer, or what's your background?
No, I started my career working in my late father's pharmacy at the age of 12, when you didn't have computers, you didn't have photocopy machines, you hand wrote copy prescriptions, used a little stamp like they use in the post office to number the prescriptions. I used to make suppositories in my late father's pharmacy. I used to make pills. I used to make powders because there was no, there were no, the only, and not even antibiotic, the only drug that we had in those days was a sulfur drug. There were no ampicillins and amoxicillins and augmentins. So we used to make the drugs. And my late father would never let me do pharmacy. He says there's no money in it. And true, it wasn't. You used to charge 10 cents for a copy prescription. and you used to have a 25 cents dispensing fee per item, and that's how it worked. So there was no money in the late 50s, early 60s in the pharmaceutical environment. And I went off and did a BCom, and I never ever used it. I went straight into business.
The BCom is like a degree that gets you anywhere. I've got a BCom as well. I mean, and then I studied at Gibbs and did a kind of an MBA. But I mean, it's
I didn't do the management. I didn't do the management by accident. I've learned from the University of Life.
Okay, so now let's fast forward a little bit here, right? So how this thing with Discovery, I mean, okay, look, so I wouldn't say I've got history with Discovery, but let me give you a bit of story here about how I got involved in this thing. It's like, so I'm on LinkedIn. I'm not a social media guy at all. And I see this post by this woman. She's got a hysterectomy, right? And Discovery doesn't want to claim or give her money back or refund this thing. And then I see this woman posting on LinkedIn. And I'm thinking to myself, I mean, at what stage of humanity is somebody going to go onto LinkedIn, right, and reveal all these personal pains and traumas and stuff like that and try and beg for help? Something's broken here. So I contact this woman, you know, I talk to her, we have a video call and stuff. She explains all the stuff. And I said, look, I don't know how this algorithm works at the moment, but I think I can help you a bit and, you know, get some visibility on your case. So then I start to figure out this LinkedIn algorithm and whatever, and then see all these little quirks and what drives the stuff with a whole lot of bad posts and a whole lot of. Eventually, I figured out there's some kind of formula recipe, and these things start going viral. And then after that, you know, people started throwing me all kinds of cases. Oscar Chalupsky was there, the other stuff was there, and eventually, I mean, now I've got Discovery on my back as well, because I think my marketing is bigger than what they are doing. It's like, what the hell's going on? So yeah, it's interesting to see. I mean, how this plays out. Right? So now, how did this issue? Well, how did you get alerted to this issue? Was it that people came to you? And tell us a bit of what is this actual issue? What is the problem here that happened with this? What is the system failure?
Okay, so the problem started on the 2nd of January 2026. When 16,500 thousand members of Discovery got a letter advising them that there had been a systemic error in the Discovery system dating back to January 2025. I got a WhatsApp from a member of the Medichek group, which has 12,500 members on our Facebook page. We picked it up. We looked at it. We only saw it on the Saturday evening. Being Jewish, I keep the Sabbath. So I only saw it post 8 p.m. on Saturday evening. We immediately got into action. We got hold of our IT team. We wanted to see the extent of the problem. We created a unique email address called clawback. And we put out a post on Facebook and LinkedIn to the 12,500 members. And we said to them, if you've got a problem, here's an email address, email us, and we will start reviewing to see what the problem is. We'd seen the letter from Discovery, and by Sunday afternoon, we already had over 300 complaints from members of the medical scheme. So we commenced
okay, so just to help me understand, the 12,500, are these just random people that know about you, or are these your members?
These are random. These are people who know about us, and they are members of the Medichek website, Facebook page.
Okay.
Okay. They're not necessarily members of Medichek, but you know, we handle cases on an ad hoc basis as people need them, and we saw the extent of the problem. We started seeing claims coming into us, or the letters coming into us, as low as 520 rand.
Sorry, Mark. Just what is the problem? Explain it to people so that, like, okay, let's say I don't understand jack about how these problems exist, right? I just get the problem. So what is the actual problem? What's the issue?
The problem is there was system change in discovery. Okay, so what I think is pretty clear and important to understand. Medical aid is made up of two very distinct arms. Arm number one is the medical aid, of which every person who joins any medical aid in South Africa is a member of that non-profit organization called the Medical Aid Scheme. The law in South Medical Aid Scheme, because that's what you're part of. Your contract that you sign, or anybody signs with the medical aid, is a contract between you and the medical aid scheme. The law says that a medical aid needs to have an administrator, because the non-profit doesn't administer your processing of your claims, the receipt of your contributions, writing the rules of the scheme. That is done by a separate profit-making entity, and in Discovery's case, that is Discovery Health Pty Limited.
Okay, but are you allowed, sorry, just let me ask you this. That sounds as if you're marking your own homework. Are you allowed as a scheme to have yourself as the administrator?
Yes, you are. There are certain schemes that are self-administered, but Discovery made the decision that they would have a separate entity called Discovery Health Pty Limited, which is the administrator of the scheme, which controls all of the financial aspects and all of the systems that the scheme requests input.
Okay. But should, I mean, in your view, should those things be separated maybe? Or?
There should be a Chinese war between the two. I find it difficult to put a scalpel between the administrator at Discovery and the medical scheme. It's almost impossible to put a scalpel between the two.
Yeah.
I mean, they sit in the same building. They interact on an ongoing basis. Not that other parties don't interact on it, or medical schemes don't interact with administrators. So to try and understand what the administrator is, if you are a member of the Fed Health Medical Scheme, they have to have an administrator. Their administrator is MedScheme. Now, if you look at the three major administrators in South Africa who manage schemes, you have Discovery Health Medical Scheme Pty Limited, an administrator, and it handles not only its own scheme, it handles multiple schemes. So it handles, for example, the Sasol Medical Aid, it handles the BankMed Medical Aid. So they handle a number of things as a profit-making environment. MedScheme, of course, handles GEMS, which is the second largest individual medical scheme in South Africa. And then you have Momentum on the other side, which also has multiple users of its systems. And each of those systems are designed specifically for each and every medical schemes, and they are huge profit-making organizations. Medical schemes themselves, the actual scheme, are non-profits, and if you look at their results, apart from the fact that they are required to have reserves, what we call solvency ratio in the industry, that's limited to 20, has to be a minimum of 25%, but the industry average for 2024 was just over 40%. So the schemes are driving towards maintaining and ensuring that they do not drop their solvency level ratios below that 25%, which becomes a regulatory issue covered in terms of the Medical Schemes Act.
Okay, so you
so
obviously
the error occurred in the administrator,
right,
and wasn't picked up, from our understanding, until 6 months in the year, into the 25 year. Now, we were of the opinion, and we still remain of the opinion, that if you have a board of trustees, which is required by law, who run the medical scheme, or who are tasked with overviewing the medical scheme, having an oversight and an overview, they should have, in terms of their monthly reporting, seen a sudden and dramatic growth in the rise in medicine claims coming through the medical scheme. But they didn't.
Right.
On the other hand, if you look at Discovery, and I have a very close relationship with Discovery, funnily enough. I don't have to deal with clerks. I don't have to deal with call center agents. I deal directly with the executive of Discovery. And I saw this problem, and the point that I make as the scheme and the administrator, if you see on a monthly basis a sudden rise in medicine claims coming from members of your medical schemes, you pick it up in the administrator, because when I go to Discovery's offices, I made a joke with the head of the medical directors. I said, wow, that's interesting. I walked into Discovery this morning and I sat at reception waiting to be led up to the first floor mezzanine meeting room level. And I didn't see an actuary. And she said, well, what do you mean? I said, well, I know that Discovery employs possibly more actuaries than any other company in the country. But I went to the bathroom and there wasn't an actuary. There was a lady cleaning the bathroom. And we had a huge laugh about it. Now, actuaries should have picked this up and brought it to the attention of the administrator. The administrator should then have brought it to the attention of the scheme. But they didn't react to this.
But do you think it's because they've become too reliant on AI or something making decisions and dashboards and metrics, and something got lost in the formula somewhere and there's no human oversight?
I think there's human oversight, but there's an ethos that I don't want to disparage anybody. I don't want to be held up for defamation, but I think there's an ethos that sits in Discovery. And I think that ethos is, we're not always right, but we're never wrong.
That's a hard one. So
that's my view.
It sounds a bit of arrogance as well. That's what I discovered with the case of this woman that I was fighting for. It's like, because for me, the whole thing is, how can some of these events be planned? Just because you make an appointment doesn't mean it's a planned event. It should be covered, because the health insurance works totally different in Europe, right?
Okay. I think we've got to clarify, and if I might interject, health insurance is something that, to me, is a huge problem in this country. And we've got to talk to medical aid versus health insurance. They're two totally different things. They are absolutely, totally different entities. Health insurance is an insurance policy, and it is not a medical aid. Okay, a medical aid is governed by the Medical Schemes Act, controlled under the auspices and the oversight of the Council for Medical Schemes, which is a regulated body appointed by the Minister of Health. Whereas a health insurance product is purely an open field insurance policy that has no oversight in terms of what they do and what they don't do. So I think we need to make that very clear.
No, okay, fair enough. But I think sometimes in the mind of the public, these things are marketed almost interchangeably. It looks, the marketing and the talk, etc. Sometimes there's a blurry line. People think they're buying one thing versus they're actually buying something else, right? And
well, that's where the problem sits. We have a population who are provided with a broker, or have a broker, at the time of selling product to the members, to the general public. They sell it by brochure because the rules of the scheme have not been finally authorized or approved by the Council for Medical Schemes. So the brochure says, we'll do this, we'll do that. But members never ever read the rules of the medical scheme. And there are rules.
Stuff. It's like 300.
There's the detail. Go and find the detail. But members don't know how to do that. Members don't know how to read their claim statements. They don't know how to read the documents that come into them. A lot of people don't read anything.
Yeah, true.
So, they have no knowledge of the Medical Schemes Act. They have no knowledge of the scheme's rules, and there's a master rule for every scheme, a main body of rules. And then, of course, there are the individual plan rules, because every plan has to have a rule.
Man, this is complex, man. But
very complex.
I don't think we're going to solve this thing in this conversation. But let's go back to this. I want to take you now back to this. The specific issues there. So I've seen the stuff now on MoneyWeb and stuff, and then I haven't been following the detail. And then just people. I mean, I get bombarded on LinkedIn. Some of my posts are pretty controversial, but it's not because I'm seeking controversy. I'm trying to jolt people from state A to state B and saying, hey, we got a problem here. Let's try and fix things, right? So I got this thing from MoneyWeb and all the stuff, and I thought, hey, good job. And I think I still posted on your post to say, hey, well done. Thanks for solving this thing. And I thought you guys did a good job. Next thing then I get is this story about, what do you call it? I don't know who sent it to me first, about that Discovery now has fixed this thing, and you guys had nothing to do with it. And then then I saw your other post about narrative laundering and things like that. Now, I think first tell me, what do you mean by that narrative laundering? And why would somebody not want to give you credit for this? What do they seek to gain? I don't understand that. Why can't they give you credit?
Well, I must be honest, neither do I. We handled and received emails from just over, and when I say emails, multiple communication channels, WhatsApp, direct emails, SMS messages, phone calls, from in excess of 3,000 people regarding this issue. And we took action immediately on Monday, the 5th of January, from the letters that were sent out on the 2nd of January by Discovery. So I think it's spin. I think it's creating a headline. I think that, I don't know what the advertising spend of Discovery is on MoneyWeb. I'm a subscriber.
Why don't I want to give you credit for it? Sorry, I still don't understand that, because to me it's like you did something good. And look, I've seen that document that you sent me. There's one of the email from the lawyers, right? I'm going to show that also on. I'll put it somewhere on the video in this section. But that document's timeline, I think you guys sent the cease and desist to them, right?
No,
I think
not aware that Discovery had gone legal. Our demand was from Medichek. It wasn't from our lawyers.
I know, but it was something for them to stop some payments or so. I don't know. There was something. But you guys sent that.
We sent a cease and desist to Discovery to say stop, and this was on the 7th of January 2026, and we said to Discovery, stop this action immediately. We cited the Registrar of Medical Schemes as a co-respondent, but it was in a letter format. Okay, it was not written by our attorneys. Whilst we had attorneys reviewing my documentation, to ensure that we were quoting the law specifically, but under no circumstances did we actually issue a legal document through attorneys to Discovery. It was done on the basis of Medichek, who deals with Discovery at all times. Okay, and solves queries and problems at all times, and it went through the normal channel. It was addressed to the chairman of the board of trustees. It was addressed to the chief executive officer of Discovery Health, Ron Wellen. It was addressed to Karen Sanderson, the chief operating officer of Discovery, and we cited the registrar in that as well, so that he could become aware of it. And that was done on Monday, the 5th of January.
Right, and that was telling them to stop trying to take the money back from the people.
Correct.
Right? Exactly. So that timeline was the 5th.
5th of January.
Right. So
was Monday, the 5th
already
of
you guys, that was your first communication to Discovery. Let's call it official. communication.
Correct. And containing in excess at that point in time of 167 third-party consented claimants. We gave them an Excel spreadsheet showing that these people had given us authority in terms of the Poppy Act in South Africa to act on their behalf.
Right. And then they did their whole song and dance or whatever in whatever format, and then they came out with some release statement. That was the 12th of January, 13th, right? I think.
Yes, but you must remember we also sent them a cease and desist, a further email.
Oh, that was
on the 7th of January,
right?
And already on the Tuesday, and I'm subject to, it might have been, I think it was on the Tuesday the 6th. I got a message from Discovery, from Karen Sanderson, to say, "Can we have a meeting?"
Oh, okay, that's good.
I got called by Discovery. I'm not called. I got an email. Let's meet and discuss this so we can have, I'll send you a copy of it so we can have a meeting. I didn't call for the meeting. I'd written them an email. I didn't call for a meeting. We then set up, and I said, look, when I saw the invite list of who would be attending the meeting, I said, well, I'm bringing my senior counsel to the meeting. So it was.
And what do you think they wanted at that meeting? Did that meeting take place?
They wanted it. I thought they were going to say to us, well, we did the right thing, and it's, we're protecting the interests, and, you need to understand what went wrong. But, I went to the meeting. The meeting was due to be held on Thursday morning at 10:30. That's the 8th of January. But when I started seeing the vastness of this problem, I immediately sent a cease and desist letter. The interesting thing, the meeting was being held on Teams, and like I'm talking to you now, I see emails popping in, and they pop up on my screen, and a letter came in from a person that I didn't know, Sarah, somebody or the other, and I didn't bother opening. It was at 10:32 on Thursday morning whilst we were meeting with Discovery. And I didn't open it. We were having a very serious conversation.
And who is Sarah?
Sarah is, I'll tell you that now. That turns out to be Knowles Hussein's attorney. Okay, it's the attorney that Knowles Hussein are a group of attorneys in Johannesburg, possibly the most expensive litigation attorneys in the country. And I didn't open that. And I must be honest, I only opened it on the Friday morning because I didn't know who the sender was.
Wow. So they're throwing bazookas at you.
So what they did is, and this has happened to me previously with Discovery, you go to a meeting and when you arrive at the meeting, they say, well, here's a letter from Edward Nathan Sonnenberg. We've agreed to fund the claim. We've agreed to your request. Here's the response from Edward Nathan, and they hand it to you at the meeting. So, you don't have time to read what their attorneys have said.
Basically ambush you.
It was an ambush email. Our client doesn't have the time. We need to consult with the client. So, that was only seen on Friday morning. Okay. We did not know at the time of meeting with Discovery, despite the fact that we had informed the regulator and had cited him as a respondent to this issue, that the regulator was only meeting with them on the Friday.
Wow. Okay, so you guys were in on front. Now tell me then, what's the story with Hilton Tarrant, right? I hope I'm saying his name properly. So, that guy always strikes me as a smart oak. And, I've read a lot of his articles, and the guy is always quite, I'd say, balanced and neutral. So do you think somebody's squeezing him on the side here? What's happening?
When I saw his initial report, and there was an initial report on the Discovery debacle, as there was in every publication, I actually sent him an email with the chain of events. I sent him the email, a full copy of what we'd sent to Discovery.
That's your side of the story.
Not my side. It was the actual email. The actual email that was sent to Discovery was sent to Hilton Tarrant. The
Right.
cease and desist email was sent to Hilton Tarrant.
But then
So
why
he
did he
knew
ignore
that
it?
we were
Why
involved.
does he ignore it in his article? Why does he
Well,
frame it?
in his second article, because there were two articles. In his second article, he says, and maybe it's pure bad sub-editing. The title read, that we are taking the kudos for what's gone on, but Discovery had already made the decision prior to us attacking. And that was the headline. The headline said,
No, I thought that's the one I saw, and
but there was one prior to that. There was one prior
okay.
to that. That headline said, well, Medichek really and truly, they had nothing to do with this. Discovery had made the decision. And I can tell you that on Sunday morning, the 11th of January, I contacted Karen Sanderson, who had promised to come back to me as soon as possible to say what is actually. She is the Chief Operating Officer of Discovery Health, PDY Limited, the administrator. And she sent me a message back to say, we have made a decision. We've just issued a press release. And she very kindly sent me a copy of the press release that had gone out. I then forwarded that to the Council for Medical Schemes on the Sunday morning. I got a call from the council on the Sunday morning to say that they had received the letter, and there would be a process going forward, and Discovery would cease and desist, and they would not continue with the clawback.
Mm. Wow. Okay. So now, I mean, let's try to frame this here for the people listening. Right. So, if you or Medichek hadn't stepped in, right? I mean, and do you think, knowing your history of the players in this game, do you think that these 16,500 people, because from what I understand, those are the main members, it could be more people.
Remember, there was only over 3 categories of scheme. It was on the executive plan, the classic comprehensive plan, and the classic priority plan. Now, the letter to members that went out said that it affected 0.6% of the Discovery membership base of principal members. But if you drill down into the numbers on those 3 specific plan types, it actually equates to 10.9% of those categories of members.
Okay, so the number's totally higher then. Even that 16,500 is
You
higher.
can't take it across the entire membership base. It's the affected categories of plans. So if you are on a medical aid and you're on executive, you were affected. If you're on classic comprehensive, you were affected. If you're on classic priority, you were affected. But not everybody. But 10.9% of that base was actually affected. And Discovery never, ever, even in our meeting with them on the 8th of January, did not disclose the number. We did an estimation originally. We estimated to be between 130 and 170 million. And I'm going to be frank with you. I said to Discovery, the administrator at our meeting, I said, you as the administrator have a fiduciary duty. And you must remember that you and I have a contract with our medical scheme. The medical scheme has a contract with the administrator. And I made it clear at the meeting. I said, in your contract with the medical scheme as the administrator, you have to have service level agreements. And in those service level agreements, there must be penalty clauses if there's an error. And I was told quite clearly, it falls below the threshold of our service level agreement. But I was not told what the threshold was.
It's an invisible
we subsequently discovered the threshold level in the service level agreement is an error greater than 118 million.
Whoa.
And I said, well, claim from your insurance. This is an insurance claim. You've made an error, claim from your insurance. At the end of the meeting with their legal counsel, they actually said to me, Mark, what do you want? And I said, I'm sitting here acting on behalf of, at that point in time, just over 1,000 of their members, with consent. I said, you need to sort out the people who have complained to me, but you need to take this to your entire base for whom you made a clawback.
So do you think these people, I mean, if you guys hadn't stepped in, this is now the thing, do you think they would have gotten their money back, or Discovery would have tried to cover this thing up? Or, I mean, do you think people would have had to pay in if you guys didn't step in?
A very, very difficult answer. A very difficult question to answer. I think in hindsight, Discovery, now I'm talking hindsight Discovery. You must remember that when I was asked on MoneyWeb why Adrian Gore hadn't got involved, I said, you're looking at a large corporate, a listed entity, not only in South Africa. It has divisions, and each division has a chief executive officer. And the chief executive should resolve the problem. But I think their PR was shocking. The communications were shocking. Members getting letters on the 2nd of January, most of them were still on holiday. Some members did get phone calls as far back as the 31st of December, if they were reachable. Would they have paid back? I think that unless there had not been the public furore, the media that we achieved, the social media that we put out, the interviews where TV stations came to my home to do interviews prior to our meeting with Discovery. That was huge pressure for me to have to go to the ENCA studios in Johannesburg for an urgent 20-minute interview on the Tuesday evening, the 6th of January. They called me to an interview. I don't think that without that pressure that was being applied with multiple media outlets across the board, coming to us for interviews, for comment, TV interviews, radio interviews. We even got calls from Radio Islam with their worldwide audience, because so many members or listeners to Radio Islam, whilst they might be overseas, are still members of Discovery Medical Aid. So we handled approximately 75 radio, television, newspaper interviews in a period of 5 days.
Okay, so I mean, this is like a David versus Goliath battle, right? Which, I mean, I'm a guy that loves the underdog thing. That's my background. I come from a very poor background, so I'm always fighting for the underdog. So let's say this thing goes out into the public, right? There's a couple of thousand people that are going to get this message. So what is it that you want them to know about, like, fighting for these, or big companies and stuff like that? What is your, maybe let's call it your final message to these people? What is it you want to share, wisdom, thoughts?
Okay, so wisdom, I have the University of Life behind me. Read the fine print, understand what you're signing, question everything that is told to you. And I'm going to use some language which I'll most probably be annihilated for. When you speak to your broker, and I'm changing the name, your oxygen thief, ask him for the detail. Delve into the detail. What are my rights? But also you have responsibilities. And you as a member of a medical scheme need to know what your rights are in terms of the rules of the medical scheme. And you need to know what your responsibilities are. And if I can just go back to your hysterectomy case, I don't know whether that was won or it was lost. The minute a member of a medical scheme has to apply for an authorization for a procedure, The medical scheme regards that as an elective procedure. Elective means I've decided because I've got whatever, okay? God forbid it's cancer. God forbid it's lesions. God forbid it's menstrual cycle problems.
Hang on. The application form that you fill out makes it an elective procedure, even though it's not your choice.
Even though it's not.
Come on.
Absolutely.
Come on.
That's how medical schemes review it.
Oh God, oh God, oh God.
So I don't know whether your case was solved, but those are the cases that we handle on a daily basis.
So, okay, so what's the thing here? So how do people connect with you? What's your, what's the best ways to reach you? Do they get onto LinkedIn, or where, what's your, what do you?
They can get onto LinkedIn, they can get onto Facebook, they can get onto Twitter, they can get onto our webpage, and they can make contact with us. We have a hotline on WhatsApp, and they can communicate with us on WhatsApp. So, I don't know if I'm allowed to quote these.
I mean, I'll put something somewhere that they can reach you or something.
Okay, so we have a website page called medichek.net.za. We have a Facebook page called Medichek South Africa. We have a LinkedIn page called Medichek South Africa. We have an X, formerly Twitter page called Medichek SA, and we have a direct hotline into our offices on 084-895-2989, and then we have a dedicated address for complaints called complaints@medichek.net.za.
Okay, so look, I mean, I think this has been eye-opening for me. I mean, is there anything more you want to say, or do you think?
Yeah, I do just need to give a what is the exact word? I need to disclose. Okay, post my activity, post my bypass surgery, I was invited by the Council for Medical Schemes to sit on initially the Fraud, Waste and Abuse Advisory Body of the Council for Medical Schemes, acting in the interests of members as the member stakeholder on the Council for Medical Schemes. I was then further invited and still participate in that advisory body, and I've just signed my next tenure for the next couple of years. I was also part of and invited to sit on the low-cost benefit option planning program that took place that the minister has never signed off on. And I also sit on every single PMB review committee, prescribed minimum benefit review committee of the Council for Medical Schemes. I sit in on every meeting that is required of me by the council. So my interest and my activity is not purely looking after members' interests from the point of view of Medichek, but I look after their interests as well in terms of the Council for Medical Schemes. I sit there as their advocate on the Council for Medical Schemes.
Okay. Thank you, Mark. Listen, I'm going to end the recording here.
Okay.
And then you and I can just talk, right? So I'm going to just stop the recording. Thank you.
Best coffee I've had all week.